Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. In this video, I want to give my testimony about the process of ordering my custom Rathskellers table and my overall feelings on the final product. First things first, would I recommend buying this table? I would say hell yeah, especially if you just have $16,000 to spend on that custom order, because that's how much my husband and I paid for this table. I would also say this is one of the most beautiful pieces of furniture I have ever seen, and the craftsmanship is bar none. My husband, who has had experience working in construction industries, also said that it was so beautiful and so intricately well made that I can't even, as a novice or as a person without any experience, understand the amount of depth and implementation they used in order to make this table. And I would have to agree. I mean, this table just looks sublime. As you'll see in the attached video I have looping, you can see how amazing this table looks and how absolutely stunning it is. It feels wonderful to touch. Even though it's wood, it's totally smoothed out, and it's just absolutely phenomenal, the level of quality we have received. As far as what makes this table unique as compared to any other normal dining room table or something of that nature, we ordered from Rathskellers something they hadn't done up until this point, which was inlay a television inside of the well of the gaming section of the table. They put some scratch-proof plastic glass type structure over the top of it as well that is removable, and that protects it from scratching the television they embedded into it. The reason why we wanted this in the first place was because we're going to project battle maps from the television so that people can put their miniatures on it, and we can have animated battle maps and use the miniatures that way and just make a more cinematic experience. The trade-off, of course, of this was that they couldn't embed their inbuilt stereo system within the television. However, there is still the stereo system within the television itself, so we still have sound coming for that, for ambient music and all of that. As you can see in the video, there's also sliding attachments that go in an aluminum railing around the table, and those are just absolutely phenomenal. We've used those a couple times with guests already, and I love having it so that there are dedicated cup holders and tablet holders for our players to use. That way no one really has a risk of spilling a drink onto the table itself. They would have to literally pick it up and carry it over in order to drop it onto the table, because the cup holders are so far removed that there's no way that can happen. I've got to say, though, the only thing I'm kind of weird about is the wine attachments. They have wine attachment holders that I would be terrified to use because they have glass stems that extend below the table, and that's just one chair armrest or kneecap from shattering it everywhere. So we probably won't be using those very much. We might find another use for them, but we'll see. They also gave us two little felt boxes that are pretty deep and can hold really anything you want. I'll probably use them mostly for putting my miniatures that I'm going to use for the campaign session that evening, rather than keeping it all on my side of the table. They have two slam-proof drawers attached as well. Those are really cool. We put the extra flat attachments in those, and the wires for our charging cords that we use for our tablets for our players, so we also use it for that as well. So this table came with two sets of leaf inserts. One of them makes it like a normal dining table, and the leaves slat into each other like this, so that it basically means that even if something was spilled on top, if all those inserts are in, it's not even going to leak through to the bottom of the table because of how they're set up, and they're super tight pressed together. And what else is nice about this, as you'll see in the video, as the Dungeon Master area, I have the DM screen and my tablet and my notes on one side, and instead of that resting within the well of the table, I used two of the leaf inserts and a bar that keeps it so that, like, miniatures won't roll underneath it towards me, or dice or anything like that. It stops anything from really coming underneath the leaves and getting stuck, which is a super good idea I wouldn't have thought of. The only problem with these leaf inserts that might prevent me from ever using it as a full table is that if you look in other testimonial videos, specifically Matthew Koval's, because his is phenomenal, there's a plunger that he references that goes up through the table, and it knocks one of the leaves up because, like I said, the leaves fit super tightly together. But if I were to put all the leaves in my own table, I would not be able to get them out because there's no real way to get that plunger in there. They gave us the plunger. There's a hole for the plunger, but it does not fit in the hole, which is kind of strange, but we just probably won't use it for that utility. Additionally, they gave us these 3 big leaves, if you want to call them that, and they're 3 sections that fill up the entire top of the table, and those have an entire grab section to pull out from. And what's really cool about those is that we found out that the felt insert that is super incredible and great for card games slats into that. So, hey everyone, unfortunately due to an audio glitch, something didn't record properly, but what I wanted to say was that the table actually has 3 large leaf inserts that seat on top, and the felt insert seats into those 3 leaves. And what's really cool about that is you can have a game seated below those felt inserts undisturbed, and then have another game running on top of it. So you can have 2 games simultaneously with all their pieces out that don't interfere with each other. My table also has LED lighting around the perimeter of the inside, which is cool, and I'll probably use it as best I can. We'll see how well it goes. I don't really have a lot of plans for it, but it's there, and I'll use it if I think about it. In terms of constructing the table, I would say it's incredibly easy as long as you have 2 people who can deadlift over 500 pounds between the 2 of them. Because this thing was freaking heavy. We removed everything we could have from the table. What was incredible is that the table itself is separate from the 4 legs and the leg connector between them. And I must say, one of the biggest selling points for me on wanting this table was, besides the impeccable craftsmanship and Matthew Koval's testimony on him loving it, was that it was so easy to construct. I saw a lot of other gaming tables in the same vein as this. However, they all looked like they required you to do a lot of construction. This thing is easier to construct than IKEA furniture. So if that tells you anything, you can understand how easy it is. The only issue is that the main centerpiece table is incredibly heavy. I think if you have 4 people, it would be much easier to do, but my husband and I only had the 2 of us, so we did what we could. Also, it was kind of a pain to get from the construction box into our living room through normal door measurements. That was very hard. We had to make a ramp out of pillows and cardboard to slide it up that to get it through the doorway and into our house, because there was no way we could carry it vertically between the 2 of us. I don't even think 4 people could really handle that, so that was kind of scary, but we made it in safe and sound. And then powering the system, there is a plug. They were so generous, they sent us 2 European to American converters, and it's very easy to get the power running for the television and for the LED lighting. And it has a wireless charging station and inbuilt USB charging stations. So we started this ordering process about a year ago, and since from conception to retrieval, Rathskellers has been phenomenal. Probably one of the best customer service bases I have ever worked with. I'm glad too, because I was giving them such a large amount of money. It was nice that I felt that I was being taken care of as the customer for spending as much as I did. They were always very communicative. They sent us samples for picking out our felt and the wood stains. We were very involved in the process, and they were never dubious about anything they were doing. When I said, hey, where is this along in the construction process? Early on, they would say, okay, here's our queue system. You are number 1 in this quarter for construction. And I was like, very nice. And then when I said, hey, can I have some pictures? The next day, they would send me 8 different photos showing me where they were in that process. And that was very nice to know that anytime I reached out to them, they would respond. On the other hand, DHL, the international shipping company, is probably the worst customer service people I have ever dealt with in my life. in order to retrieve this, because it was such an expensive table, $16,000, they had to assume power of attorney for me in order to import it, and that required my social security number, tax forms, and or my social security card as proof of my social security. They're the most incompetent people I have ever dealt with. When I asked to speak to some supervisory manager in their import department, they literally said, "We don't have the number. We just hit buttons. I can't give you a number of my supervisor." They were incredibly hard to get in touch with, and I was super sketched out about the forms I would have to fill in order to get it. Unfortunately, at this point, they already had my product, and I could do nothing about it. So I hated working with DHL. It took me over 2 weeks. It had been in the country for 2 weeks, and it took me from them to my door in order to retrieve the package. And the best part about working with them was they kept asking for all these forms, and against my better judgment, I sent them these forms, and then they kept not shipping my package out, and it turned out they weren't even reading the attachments I was sending them. They kept telling me they didn't have my info, but they literally didn't read their attachments. So hopefully in the future, Rathskellers will deal with another international shipping company if they have the option to do so, because DHL is horrendously terrible. I don't want to end on a negative note, however, so I will say this. This table, we have used it twice now, and it is probably the greatest thing I could have asked for gaming. It is so fun to use. It gives us so much space. Before, on the table we had was about half the size before, and it had a television on top with a glass covering. It worked great. It was super fun, but this is 5 levels above that. It is so much more. We have so much space for everyone to operate around. No one's bumping into each other. Everyone has ample space. And because we made the addition of using D&D Beyond and the tablets we got for everyone to use while they're here, it has automated the process and brought D&D, I think, into the digital age it needs to be, while also maintaining the dice rolling and miniature format that makes D&D the tactile strategy game that it is. So all in all, I would highly recommend this table and this company. And if you have the money to spend for D&D, Rathskellers could not have been a better choice. Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.